Hi Mustang students, this is going to be the Math Spiral Review for May 11th, Phase 3 of our distance learning. Let's go ahead and let's get started. The first problem will probably look very familiar to you. I think that we've kind of done something similar to this before. It says Julia bought 5 bracelets and 3 necklaces for $37. Each bracelet cost $5. The necklaces were all the same price. What is the cost for one necklace? So our ultimate goal is to figure out what is the cost for one necklace, not all of them, just one. Something that we need to match up to is that these 5 bracelets each cost $5 and that she spent a total of $37. So when I go ahead and make this equation, I'm going to take the 5 bracelets times the $5 to see how much she spent on bracelets altogether. So 5 times 5 is 25, meaning she spent $25 altogether on bracelets. Now, the key here is knowing that her total spent was $37. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my total and I'm going to subtract what I know. And what I'll have left will be for all 3 necklaces. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my total of $37, subtract the $25 that I know. So I'm taking these two numbers. I'm taking what she spent and what I know she spent on bracelets. Okay, so 7 minus 5 is 2 and 3 minus 2 is 1. So what I have left over is $12. This means that she spent $12 on all 3 necklaces. So for 3 necklaces, I'm just going to go ahead and draw 3 circles. For 3 necklaces, she spent a total of $12. Now, our question asks us how much she spent for one necklace. In order to do that, I'm going to take and split this 12 up in between the 3, or I'm going to do 12 divided by 3, which is going to give us $4. So how much did she spend on each necklace? She spent $4 on each necklace. Okay, for the next one, fill in the blanks for the following equations. Most of them are pretty easy to figure out. The hardest one I think is going to be C. So the first one, 5 times what gives me 500? Or I can look at it as 5 divided by 5 with 2 zeros. So 5 times 100 is going to give me 500. For the next one, this is super straightforward. 5 times 10 is 50. I'm going to skip C for a second and move down to D. For D, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 5 times 6 with 2 zeros at the end. So 5 times 6 is 30. With 2 zeros at the end is going to give me that 3,000. Okay, now going back to C. When you look at C, I'm going to take out the zeros. Oops, sorry, highlighter. I'm going to take out the zeros, and this is a 48, and I see that I have a 10 here. So actually, I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to say 1. So my first step is to think, okay, 1 times what is going to give me 48? So 1 times 48 gives me 48. I have 1 0 here because of the 10, and I have 1 0 here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm taking my equal sign and I'm trying to match the zeros. So in between each equal sign, you will see that the zeros match. 2 zeros, 2 zeros. Here's the equal sign, 1 0, 1 0. Here's the equal sign, 2 zeros, 2 zeros. That 0 and the 30 doesn't count. So when I'm looking at this, I see that I have 1 more 0 left over, which means my answer is going to be 480 times 10 gives me 4,800. All right, select all the expressions that have a value of 20, meaning they have to equal 20. So again, here's my fun mental math. I think this is like the easiest kind of division. I'm going to take 35 and divide by 5, and I get 7. Oops. There we go, 7 with 1 0 at the end for 70. This is not a value of 20, so A does not work. Next, I'm going to take 16 and divide it by 8 with 1 0. 16 divided by 8 is 2, with 1 0 at the end is 20. That is what I'm looking for, so B is one of those possible solutions. For C, and I know we've talked about this before, this is not 2 divided by 4 because that would give me a half. This is actually 20 divided by 4 with a 0. So 20 divided by 4 is 5, with 1 0 at the end is 50. Not the droid we're looking for. The next one I have is going to be 12 divided by 6 with 1 0 at the end. 12 divided by 6 is going to give me 2 with 1 0 at the end is going to give me 20. This is also the value that I'm looking for. And last but not least, I have 5 divided by 5 with 2 zeros at the end. 5 divided by 5 is, of course, 1 with 2 zeros at the end is going to give me 100. Not the answer I'm looking for. So B and D are the 2 reasonable answers. All right, this last one, which fraction is equivalent to 6/8? What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of work backwards here. I'm going to take the unknown fraction and multiply it by a same number over a same number and see if I can possibly get to 6/8. So I'm going to start with A, 5, 6. So 5, 6. So what I'm looking at is, does 6 times anything give me 8? So I'm going to start here. If it does, then they're possible equivalents. If they're not, then it doesn't. So 6 times, nothing gives me 8. So this one alone, I know, is not going to give me the answer I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and erase this. And let's cross out 6, 5, 6 because that will, that will not give me a correct answer. So the next one I'm going to pull up is B. I'm going to put in 2/4. So again, my question is, does 4 times anything give me 8? And most of you, hopefully you're screaming in your head, yes, 2. So because I put a 2 on the bottom, that means I also have to put a 2 on the top to make them equivalent, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to multiply this fraction by a whole number to get an equivalent fraction over here. So it has to always be same number over same number. Now, the problem with this, 4 times 2 is 8, but 2 times 2 is not 6. Therefore, my 2/4 is also not going to be a correct answer because those are not matching up. They have to match perfectly in order to matter. So let's see. Let's go ahead and erase these. Okay. So next on our list, we have 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and put in, let's do it in blue, 3/4. So again, to myself, 4 times what gives me 8? I'm looking at this and I know that 4 times 2 gives me 8. So whatever I put on bottom, I have to put on top. So I'm going to put a 2 on the top. And then, so now I know that the bottom matches. 4 times 2 does give me 8. And I got to make sure the top matches too. 3 times 2 does give me 6. So I see that this 3/4 is an equivalent fraction. So 3/4 is correct. Now, the last and not least, I'm looking at 5/10. I know that 5/10 is half because 5 is half a 10, but if I wanted to prove it, I could put it in here. Sorry, it's taking so long. I could put it in here as 5/10. There we go. Let's put 5/10 in here. 10 times nothing gives me 8. So therefore, this one already is a bust, leaving the only one being equivalent as 3/4. Okay, this one, we have been talking about decimals, especially to the tenths place, so I hope this one was incredibly easy for you. All you had to do is match 3/10 to the fraction of 3/10 to the decimal of 3/10. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pour. So I have 5/10 is equal to 5/10 is equal to 5/10. And then 6/10, 6/10 is equal to 6/10, which is also equal to 6/10. I have 9/10, which is equal to 9/10, which is equal to 9/10. And last but not least, 2/10, which is the same thing as 2/10, which is the same thing as 0.2. On your worksheet, you were supposed to draw lines to them. I drew them in colors so that you could see it, but if you could, please draw those lines so that I can see clearly and know what you meant. You can also color coordinate them like I did. That actually makes it even easier for me. Up to you. As long as I see those lines, I'm all good. Last but not least, look at the set of triangles shown. Circle all that are right triangles. For this, you may want to use a corner piece of a paper in order to solve this. But I can see that A is a right triangle because I'm looking for that 90 degrees, which is a right angle. So A is correct. The next, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and go to B. You may have to turn your paper around. So you may need to flip it to see if you can find that 90-degree angle. So I'm looking and I see, let me change it back. I see that B looks like it's also a right angle. And if I turn for C, let's go ahead and turn this for C. If I look at C though, I can tell that it's less than 90 degrees just by making a little box here, so C is not going to work. D, the same thing. If I turn it a little bit, let me turn it this way so you can see. If I turn it this way and I try to make that box or that 90 degrees, it's not making that perfect square, so D is also not going to have a right angle in it. And last but not least, when I look at E, hopefully you can tell right away, but when I look at E, I see that this is also not a right angle because it's not making that perfect box, so E does also not work. So the only two that are 90-degree right triangles are going to be A and B. All right, you guys, that's it for today. I hope this helps. See you next time.